Hello! Hello, everybody! How are you? Happy Foundry anniversary. Really excited to be here. Really excited to have folks join and watch. Going to pull up the stream here and see who all's been able to come join us today. Very excited about that. Um, how's everybody in chat? How are we sounding to you? Everything coming through more or less clear? Why don't the rest of y'all say hello so that chat can verify for me that they're getting audio from you well.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello there.
Awesome. All right, let's see here.
Yeah, good.
Works. Yeah,
like
I'm
it's
seeing some confirmations. All right, let's. I'll put on a little bit of subtle atmospheric music here, and hopefully that will be balanced well for you all in the background, and we can all use our handy new V12 volume sliders to adjust the balance of that. But yes, we are here to celebrate. It is a big, so cheerful for such a dark and creepy map. Yeah, we should put on something a little bit more cheery. Although, alas, A House Divided is not that sort of tale. Yeah, we're here to celebrate a really significant milestone for us. It is our anniversary. It is a period of celebration for us at Foundry VTT. It is also the release of version 12 stable, which is a huge milestone that we've been working towards for, honestly, it's been about a year. So not quite working on it that long, but yeah, it's been a really long time that we've been working on getting V12 ready to go, and now it is. And so yes, we're super excited about that, and to to share some details of what that involves and what it brings to the software, and just to hang out and to sort of revel a little bit in our accomplishment, I suppose. So yes, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you'll find this stream to be interesting. Yeah, we can go ahead and jump into it. Why don't we do a quick round of introductions, just so that folks in chat can put names with faces, and then I'll start with a little bit of a summary of like what the anniversary celebration's all about. But Eber, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Eberhard. I'm one of the devs here. Yeah, what else? Yeah, you probably know me as Dev Numbers on Discord. Yeah, excited to show you what we worked on.
Yeah, for sure. And V12 was kind of the first major version of Foundry that you were sort of there able to contribute to from the beginning, because you kind of caught just like tail fragments of V11, right? Or I don't remember. Yeah, I think that
it's been a little bit more than a year now that I joined.
Yeah,
I think like 2 weeks ago or something.
Oh, nice!
The 1 year anniversary.
another anniversary.
Yeah.
This is a time for celebrations all around. Kim, why don't you say hello?
Yo, hi, I'm Kim. I'm one of Foundry core developers. I'm primarily responsible with working on the D&D 5e system as well, but my core development duties involve just everything else that's not the canvas. We have 2 very talented canvas developers, so I do most other things, working with Andrew on all of the other bits and pieces that Foundry entails.
Yeah. Ludovic.
Hello, I'm Ludovic. You know me under the alias Secret Fire, and I'm one of the core developers also, and I'm specialized into canvas things. And I'm very excited to show you what the teams have made for this version.
Awesome. Yeah, we're excited to show off. I think most of what we're going to show today are things that have been kind of seen before, but certainly new in terms of them being stable now and ready for folks to experience and use yourself. But I do have a couple caveats to pass out regarding that. So before we get into the demo of the stuff we're going to cover in the stream, I want to just start with a little bit of a recap of what is our anniversary celebration about, and then a recap of like how to interpret the new V12 stable version. So there's a page on our website. You can get there if you are on the homepage of foundryvtt.com. There's a banner right in the first carousel where you can click in and get to this anniversary celebration overview page. And I'll just zoom it in a touch so that it's a little easier to see on stream. And so we've got events going all throughout the next week and a half between today, the 22nd, and next Friday, the 31st. Just about something every day. Not quite, but just about. So today we've got the beginning of our anniversary sale and the V12 release, both of which are now up and active and running. And so I'll talk about both of those for a moment. So in terms of the sale, there's a ton of stuff on sale during this period from now until the end of next Friday. So Foundry VTT licenses are on sale. If you go to purchase, it's discounted, 20% off, as is 20% off on our first party adventure products of the Demon Queen Awakens and A House Divided for that same amount of time. In addition to that, we also have a bunch of our amazing publisher partners who have joined in to help us celebrate our anniversary this year with sales on all of or some of their premium content that you can get from those publishers. So AAW has 20% off. Bailey is offering discounts on various Patreon supporter tiers. Cubicle 7 has 20% off Warhammer Fantasy, Wrath and Glory, and Soulbound products for the whole duration of the period. Dragonzorn Studios, Rugalt, many of you may know from the Discord, has 20% off a variety of their adventures and encounters, also automatically applied for the whole duration. Elderbrain has 20% off Crown of the Oathbreaker, which is a really huge in scope, really ambitious adventure that you can check out. It's pretty impressive. Goodman Games, speaking of pretty impressive stuff, lots of really great stuff from DCC, from Goodman, 20% off for the whole duration. Immaterial Plane has their backstory cards that are discounted for the duration of the sale. Kobold Press has discounts on Tome of Beasts 1, Tome of Heroes, Book of Ebon Tides and Tales, and the Shadows, and the bundle of those products together. So very cool from Kobold Press. Also just had Tome of Beasts 2 release, which is very cool. Not discounted because it's just released for Foundry, but also another amazing recent content drop from KP. Lion Banner has up to 40% off a bunch of different things from some of their battle maps, as well as some of their Hellwatch and Colossus Gods adventures. So definitely check that out. Really impressive discount from our friends at Lion Banner. Paizo has products on sale for the duration, for the overlap between our anniversary and PaizoCon. So the duration here is a little bit different. It's the 22nd through the 27th. Hope many of you are enjoying the festivities with PaizoCon. And during that period, check out 20% off products on the Paizo.com store for Foundry VTT products. So awesome sale from our good friends at Paizo. Pinnacle is discounting 25% off all of their Savage Worlds titles for an extended period that is live now, and then through June 4th. And I think there is going to be a pricing change on Savage Worlds products starting after June 4th. So this is a really great opportunity to get those not only when they're on sale, but before there may be a permanent shift there. So if you're interested in Savage Worlds, definitely check that out. The Ripper 93 has discounts on Patreon tiers, so 2 months off of the price of an annual subscription, which is really cool. Obviously, you all know that Ripper is doing a huge amount of really exciting stuff for Foundry, and really excited to see how that continues to grow. But great chance to get a discount on that Patreon membership. Silver Games has 30% off all of their products on drive-thru from the 22nd to the 31st. And so on their drive-thru store, you can get 30% off their Foundry products from Silver Games. Ulysses Spila has up to 80% off, which sounds crazy. I don't know how much the up to is, but I'm gonna have to go check that out on their shop for Foundry premium content, and those sales are automatically applied between now and the end of May. Ulysses is, of course, the Dark Eye, Das Schwarze Auge. You want to give me a better? How was that? How did I do, Ever? Was that okay?
Das schwarze Auge.
Okay. I mean, I'd say you'd give me like a what, 7 out of 10?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Generous day.
Yeah, generously. Wise Gaming has 20% off their new packs and prefabs. Wise is, of course, one of our newer content providers, so definitely check them out and see what they've got available, and pick some new stuff up to enhance the visual appearance of your games. I'm seeing some good jokes in chat about my attempted German. I got top marks for trying, though. All right, so that's an overview. You can find this page on our website, linked from the anniversary celebration itself, of course. And yeah, definitely check out these sales. We've had really great take up from our publisher partners who've opted into joining us during this period of celebration to put a lot of their stuff on sale. So consider checking that out and supporting them as well. All right, in addition to the sales and special offers that's going on right now, we have a really compelling event schedule for the next week and a half. Today we've got our release celebration. That's it. You're here, you're watching it. This is it. And then tomorrow we've got our version 13 Patreon feature vote. So development for version 13 isn't going to start for a little while. We're going to be focused on maintenance for V12 stable, and just, generally taking a breath and giving ourselves a little bit of time to decompress and plan. But the planning process for V13 will be starting, and a key part of that planning process for V13 will be a feature vote, as we do every time. So for those of you in the community who are supporters of ours on Patreon, that poll will be up starting tomorrow, and it'll stay up through the end of the month. So during this period of anniversary celebration, you can also cast your vote on where we might turn our attention next. And so that'll be tomorrow on Thursday, and then on Friday we'll be posting our big annual year in review article. So each year we post that article and we reflect back on the last 12 months, things we've accomplished, our successes, our lessons learned, things that we can look ahead towards as well. So looking in anticipation to things that are going to be happening through the rest of 2024, and perhaps a little bit beyond. We'll be commenting on that in our 2024, our 4-year anniversary year in review article. So that article isn't posted yet. It'll just be like a dead link until then. But once that article is posted on Friday, I really encourage you all to check it out. It's a great opportunity for us to share some insight with you, and I hope you'll find it interesting to read. Then we take a little break over the weekend just to, relax and play games of Foundry, of course, using V12 stable. And then on next Monday, we'll have a future content showcase stream. This is one that I'm particularly excited about. We're going to have a chance to show some projects that we've been working on, some of which you may know about and several of which you don't. And so this will be a chance to demonstrate what we're up to, comment on what's coming up ahead, and introduce a few things that you'll be seeing for the very first time come next Monday. So it's going to be really, really exciting. I hope that you'll all be able to join us for that at 2 p.m. Eastern right here on Twitch. And if you can't make the live stream, there will be a video of the broadcast uploaded to YouTube, usually a day or two later. And that goes for this stream as well. So please do join for that if you're able. Then on Tuesday of next week, we're doing an Ask Us Anything on Reddit, and it's an us because I guess the team collectively will be participating. And yeah, so throughout the day, we'll be answering questions on our community subreddit, reddit.r/FoundryVTT. If you're a member of that Reddit community, or if you aren't, definitely check it out. And use that opportunity to ask us some things that you'd like to know, whether they're kind of the serious, hard-hitting questions that you really wish we'd answer, or something a little bit more silly. We'll be tackling all range of questions next Tuesday. Then same thing on Wednesday, except we're going to use our Discord server as the venue for that. So if you're a member on our Discord server, we'll have a channel set up. I don't know yet if it's going to be like a regular sort of slow-moded channel, or if it's going to be like a forum with different posts, or I'll leave that to Nath to figure out all of the logistics. But we will be doing something on Discord next Wednesday throughout the day to also engage with the community, to answer questions, to talk about what's coming up next, and things like that. Then lastly, but certainly not least, to round out and to finish off our anniversary celebration, we are going to be doing a Free Project Friday live edition on Friday the 31st. Also, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern on this Twitch channel. Usually Free Project Friday is something that we do internally as a team, where we all get a chance to work for a day, maybe sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, on a project that we are personally excited about, something that we are really passionate about working on, each of us individually, or something that, you know, we'd love to do but otherwise don't have the chance to prioritize. And so there's a lot of really great things that come out of FPF, as we call it, that a lot of them end up becoming features in the core software. You'll see a few of those today that became features of V12 that first came out of FPF. And who knows, maybe something that we'll do next Friday will become a part of what you'll then be getting in V13. Who knows? I don't know. So definitely join us for that. That'll be a chance to gather the team together and have kind of a group celebration and enjoy that FPF process together. So I hope you'll join. And yeah, so that's a roundup of everything that we have going on for the next 10 days. It's a lot of stuff, especially in combination with the amazing promotions and sales that are going on right now. So definitely check all of those things out, and thank you for being here for this stream. So without further ado, we can get into talking about version 11. Looks like in chat, just in case there's any questions, a question about is there already a preview of the V13 poll? There's not a preview, but it will be available tomorrow, and we'll have an article on the website that outlines all of the different options for people who can't see it on Patreon, so you at least can see what is on the list. But that'll be tomorrow. Okay, so V12. Whew, we did it, kind of. I mean, not kind of. We did it. It is out. It is released. It's something that we've been working on for a long time, and it feels to me like V12 development has just been sort of like a permanent feature of our life as a team for a while. So it's kind of a little bit weird. It hasn't quite made sense yet that we reached the stable milestone to me, but we did. I was thinking it would be earlier in the year, but you know, I think we took our time and we really invested the extra effort to get some features right that maybe weren't quite there in March. So yeah, I'm really excited that we are here now. Definitely consult the release notes for some guidance about how to update. I really it is stable. It is a stable release, and so you shouldn't have extreme hesitation, but you should have some prudence, some caution about doing it, because it is a big step to go from V11 to V12. So, or pre V11 to V12, if that applies to you. Do recommend updating to V12 from V11 if you have the chance to, because in V11 we added our new built-in backup system, and so if you get yourself onto V11 first, then you can take advantage of the backup system to protect yourself during the transition to V12. So we recommend taking a full snapshot backup in the V11 environment before you update. And then once you've taken that full snapshot, you can download and install the V12 stable release and get it set up and try everything out. And if it's not working for you because modules or systems that you rely on aren't ready yet, or you encounter some bugs that are preventing you from using the version the way you expected to, if you have that full snapshot that you took from V11, then the process to go back is quite straightforward. You would just go back to install the V11 version that you were on before and restore from your snapshot to get all of your data back exactly the way it was before. So yeah, definitely recommend using that backup system before you update to V12, and then rely on it as a way to get back if you need to. Also, please bear in mind that not all game systems are quite ready for V12 yet. So before even attempting this, you should check the package release page for your game system or systems of choice and make sure that they have a release listed that supports V12. And don't bother trying this if your game system isn't ready for it yet. Please do be patient and supportive and appreciative of our wonderful community of developers who are maintaining and updating and improving those systems and improving modules that you use. We have a wonderful community of developers who volunteer their time, and create amazing things for Foundry VTT. And so please do be considerate of that community in terms of the urgency with which you're expecting certain things to be V12 compatible or whatnot. Appreciate that it will probably take some time in some cases and not in some cases, but be mindful of that. And yeah, thank you for being patient and understanding about that, because I don't want any of our developers to feel like they are being personally, pressured to get something out if they don't have a comfortable amount of time with which to do that. Okay, so that's a quick primer on how to get onto V12 with some suggestions about that. I think we should go ahead and jump into highlighting some of the amazing features that V12 offers. And I'll rely on the teammates here to help me walk through many of them. We can kind of rotate around and discuss ones that each of us had a little bit more of a direct hand in creating. Although some perspective for the audience is that we all tend to help each other on a lot of features. So I think it is mostly the case that kind of everyone contributed a little bit to everything. There's no feature that's really like, this is only this person, although maybe Eber with grids, I don't know. There's maybe one or two, or Kim with the Peggy parser. But for the most part, yeah, it's like we kind of collectively as a team contribute to all of the features that we ship. I think there's so many places we could start, but I think maybe we might start with something fun to just sort of visually show and talk a little bit about scene ambience. There's many features in V12. There's no sort of priority order or importance order to them, so we just have to start somewhere. But imagine that we have a scene where we want to style the presentation of that scene in a particular way so that it looks like it belongs to a certain biome or a certain time of day or a certain plane of existence or whatnot. I love the fog weather on this scene, but I'm going to temporarily turn it off so that you can see the scene kind of without that weather effect. And so here we have kind of a dreary sort of ruined exterior of this abandoned manor house. But Ludovic, talk everyone through a little bit of like what were our goals with scene ambience, with the environment lighting tab in the scene? Like what were some things we wanted to accomplish with it, and what are some things that you can do with it in V12?
Yeah, so the main goal of the ambience is to give your scene a particular feeling. Feeling like haunted place with some bluish tint, or maybe you want to emulate the atmosphere of a red sun, for example, for sci-fi settings. You can post-process your map in with many different options. Can change the luminosity, the saturation, shadow. You can add tint and various intensity of tint. And we manage also to allow two ambience. One which is the base ambience, which is related to darkness level 0 to the day, and one which is a dark ambience which is related to darkness level 1 for, let's say, the night in most maps. And you can enable cycling between these two. And if you change your darkness level, there is interpolation between the two ambience, smoothly graduating from base to dark ambience, for example, or the inverse. Really, you have all the tools necessary to create any kind of ambience, may it be subtle or very pronounced, very harsh. With, for example, if you want to have a red tint, a powerful red tint, it is possible.
One of my favorite things about this feature is that, you know, and here, if you imagine where this map started, we've of course made it to be a much more lush and vibrant kind of green, lively environment by using that scene ambience. And so you're able to take a map that isn't necessarily your own, like you can't easily update the image, but you can take a map from like a cartographer or an artist that you like, and then you can find a way to use it in your campaign that it's like, well, I like this map, but we're playing, you know, Rime of the Frost Maiden, and so everything's supposed to be icy and bitter cold, and so like how do I make that happen? And you can, you know, find a way to kind of give that feeling of like a more frigid environment without necessarily having to kind of throw away the map itself. And the thing that really is so nice about this is that it's not just pre-processing the background image of your scene, it's adjusting the entire canvas. And so the thing that, you know, I feel like works so very nicely about this process is that, for example, like tokens that are in the scene are of course part of the environment, and so they themselves are also affected by the way that you configure the environment. And so you don't have like a really vibrantly colorful token that kind of clashes with the background of the scene. It gives you your tiles, your tokens, everything that you've put into the scene becomes kind of jointly affected by this transformation in a consistent way. And so you have like a consistent aesthetic to, you know, how you want to present the environment of your world. Like if you want to say, you know, oh, we're in purple land, of course all of the characters in Purple Land also have that kind of hue. They wouldn't, you know, have like a strong clash against that motif. So yes, very, very useful, very powerful, very exciting things that you can do. Also to adjust, like, you know, how bright should the daylight be in this environment? Is it like a very sunny day, or is it a very gloomy day? These are a little bit different than just the darkness level, but it's a way to kind of complement the configuration of the darkness level. And then, as Ludovic mentioned, you get to cycle your you get to cycle the look of your scene in between the daytime ambience and the darkness. So, for example, if we make in darkness, we make it like a very powerful dark blue, very dark, very blue. Then when we transition to nighttime, when we transition to darkness in this map, there's going to be a transformation that the area undergoes, where it transitions to that very dark, very blue tinted environment. And so you can kind of customize like what's your daytime aesthetic and what's your nighttime aesthetic, and then it will transition seamlessly between those two. You can have red night and green day, and you get a very nice smooth transition as we go back to the kind of bright environment of that like red to green.
We have a question. How does that work with weak machines, and can it be disabled by user? No, it can be disabled by user, but about weak machine, really filters for ambience are really fast. So weak machines should be able to process them very well.
Yeah, I don't think you'll have to worry much about performance considerations from this. The team has done a really great job to make this kind of transformation super performant. All right, well, we could talk more about this, but I think if we spend too long on each feature, we'll be here until V13 releases. So, or rather, V13 will never release because we'll still be on this stream. So why don't we move on next and touch on, what did I have next on my list? Application V2. We can bounce back and forth between sort of shiny features and more technical ones. Kim, I tagged you to help me talk a little bit about Application V2. I can start with a little bit of an intro of what it is, and then maybe you can share some perspectives that you have. So Application V2 is a sort of next generation rendering framework for interface applications in the Foundry VTT environment. So not everything in Foundry V12 is using App V2 yet. In fact, most things aren't, but some things now are. It's going to be kind of a gradual changeover process as we make certain things in the ecosystem better. As we upgrade them, we're going to upgrade them to Application V2 as we go. And eventually everything will be powered by Application V2. So what's an application, you might ask? Well, it's anything that's like a window like this. It could be not necessarily just a window. It could be like the scene controls UI or the navigation up at the top or the sidebar. Anything that's kind of a component of the interface in Foundry is rendered as an application. Now, this one, the scene configuration that you saw as we were demoing the environment lighting, is an Application V1. But other pieces of the framework are now actively being upgraded to Application V2. So user configuration is an example, light source configuration is an example, sound configuration is an example, the configure permissions UI is an example. We've kept the sort of visual theme of Application V2 pretty consistent with the way that the V1 apps look, but it's a much better software framework. It has some nice layers of UX refinement and polish included in it. It supports a lot of nice features that's going to be better for us, better for users, better for localization, better for accessibility. And so there's a lot of features of Application V2 that kind of improve things across the board. And, you know, Kim, maybe you can comment a little bit on what stands out to you or how you've found working with it so far.
Yeah, so Application V2 takes basically all of the lessons learned from building with Application V1. So all of the like annoyances and just inefficiencies and perhaps suboptimal design decisions that we couldn't have known until using it for a while. All of those, we have the opportunity to sort of start from scratch and really iron those out. so that it feels and functions a lot more nicely as a developer. So it's, for the most part, it's a very much developer focused thing. There's like much more robust lifecycle hooks into every part of the application rendering pipeline, which allows you as a system developer or a module developer to really get finer grained control. There's a whole we refactored out the entire backend, like the rendering backend is now separate. So before they were intermingled. So if you were using an application, you had to build it with handlebars, but now those two are separate. So you can have an application that hooks into the whole application framework of Foundry, that Foundry understands how to, move it around and show it and render it and close and all those sorts of things without having any information about what is actually powering the rendering of it. So you can use handlebars, you can use other frameworks, other popular ones like Vue or Svelte to render those. So it's a big win for developers. For users, I think the applications look quite nice. They're like a glow up of the application v1, and as an extra special benefit, you get dark mode as well with the application v2 apps. I don't know if you can share that if you have DevTools open to switch on.
I can't. Well, we don't need DevTools anymore. Yeah, because now we have
DevTools.
The preferred color scheme that can be overridden in the settings. So if I change that, then all of these shift into dark mode. And of course, we're going to continue refining, like, what does dark mode look like? What does light mode look like? We're going to continue making some polishing changes and improvements there. But eventually, like the entire Foundry UI, you'll be able to choose between, if you want it to be more of a dark mode kind of experience or more of a light mode experience. Anything that's rendered using application v2 will support that choice. And it respects the default preference of your OS or browser as well. So like if you've configured that at like the browser level that you prefer dark mode, then Foundry will automatically do that. But you can also override it by making a choice in the settings menu about what your preferred color scheme is. And we may have other themes as well in the future. So as we have themes on the setup menu now, it may be that we'll have themes for, how your application v2 instances render on the client side, although that is not a V12 feature. That's more like looking ahead to the future of how we will use application v2. Another thing that's really exciting as part of the rollout of application v2 is like we've really improved the way that we create and present forms a lot. Honestly, like big improvements there in terms of the way that form fields can now be used. Data fields can now be used to sort of auto-generate form elements. Like the actual like underlying markup for these forms is actually dramatically simplified because we're actually generating a lot of these forms using the data models themselves as a framework for powering how a certain field of the data model is then rendered in the UI to be chosen. So like when you have a color field in your data model, and I don't know if this is going to come through on stream or not. I don't know whether the stream will pick it up or not, but like this element that I'm highlighting over here with my DevTools, this is a new custom HTML color picker element. And like this color picker element that, for example, you can, change the color of the light source either by providing a CSS color string or by using the color selector, and like those stay linked. Like this is a new custom element, and that custom element is used automatically whenever you're rendering a form field for like a color field. So if you define in your data model that this field of my data model is a color, then when you eventually make a form to allow the user to configure that color, you basically get that part for free. And that's really nice for developer experience. It's something that's going to make it a lot more pleasant to work with application v2 than application v1. And it's something that we'll be internally using a lot, and I'm sure that our developers will grow to love as well. It's also great for localization. So we have now kind of conventional framework for how the fields of data models get localized. And so these like labels and hints can now sort of be automatically localized by any data model that follows that convention of how it defines those strings in the localization file. So there's a lot of like really just kind of like developer experience and quality of life things with application v2. But then in terms of user facing stuff, yeah, the light mode, dark mode is great. Grouping of advanced kind of like header options under a consolidated header drop-down menu is going to tidy things up a lot. Kind of standardization of like the look of various forms, kind of making everything a little bit more polished, a little bit more refined, a little bit more consistent with the way that it renders. These are all things that are really great about app v2, and we'll be doing a lot more with app v2 in v13 for sure. Kim, anything else that I crucially missed?
No, I don't think so. I actually missed like the auto form generation. I think because we've covered it previously in dev streams, but yeah, that's shouldn't be understated. It's really, really nice to just have a form just immediately.
Yeah.
And just be able to use it.
We can brag on that a little bit more when we get to scene regions, because we can talk about how the behavior config apps are done there.
Sure. Yeah. I guess dialogue. We've got a dialogue v2, which came out quite nicely. It wasn't a lot of work in the end, but we've used it a little bit. We used like we've got the
deleting
the
a compendium
dialogue.
Or something. Where did you add it recently, Kim?
The settings, the reload prompt
forcing a
modal.
reload.
Yeah, so I don't know if you wanna. I mean, maybe if you enable pixels
yeah,
or
so
something.
I'm gonna say no to this, but like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you all know what a dialogue looks like and how it
Yeah,
works.
this is modal, so you can't click anywhere else.
You can't evade it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've
It's
got
really good stuff.
proper modal dialogues now,
Yeah.
which is very nice.
All right, well, let's switch back from boring tech talk and showcase some very cool scene regions stuff that would be really exciting to demonstrate. So, Eber, why don't you talk a little bit about what are scene regions? And of course, this was the feature that was voted on by our Patreon poll, our community for the V12 feature, and we really hope. We're really proud of what we've done, and we hope that the community, we hope you all feel as if what we've delivered with scene regions will kind of live up to what you hoped or thought you would be getting when you voted that we do it. I'm really proud of how it came together, and I think you're going to love it. But Eber, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what are scene regions?
Yeah, they're regions, and the fun part is that you can attach behaviors to regions, and the possibilities are maybe not limitless, but there are many possibilities.
There are many.
And modules and systems can define their own behaviors. And yeah, of course, you can even, as a normal user, create your own script behaviors. If you want to spend the time on making the best experience for your players. Yeah, why don't we switch to the maybe to the first floor of the ruined manor?
First floor ruined. Okay, we can do that. I was gonna maybe make a region, and you can direct me if you wish.
Yeah, maybe we can show off the normal drawing tools. They're pretty much the same as you would know them from the normal drawing tools, right?
I'll talk folks through what they're seeing on my screen. So there's a new layer on the canvas controls. It's a little sort of checkerboard icon called region controls, and when you're on that region, there's a little legend UI that will pop up, application v2. You can create a new region in that UI by either clicking the plus button or by just choosing one of the drawing tools and creating a drawing for what the shape of that region could be. So it might either be a rectangle, it can be an ellipse or a circle. You can draw a custom polygon shape for whatever you need. I'm just gonna make a rectangle here for this kind of whole like dance floor of this ruined area where there's these ghosts that are sort of waltzing about. This might be more of like a combat kind of encounter. And so we might say like combat trigger. I don't know, Eber, is there a particular behavior you'd like me to show off first? Maybe just like pausing the game or something simple to start with?
Yeah. Post game.
Yeah. So once you have a region, you can select it to control, and when you configure that region, you can see this region is comprised of a single shape, but it does not need to be. Regions can be complex. They can be made of multiple shapes. You can combine circles and squares. You can have Mickey Mouse region. You can have, a hole inside a region. So if we wanted to kind of cut out this to where you're only going to pause the game in this kind of like outer rectangle but not in the inner one, you can cut holes out of your region as well. It's very powerful, the flexibility that you have with these tools to define the area of effect that regions take on. And there's also a convenient toggle button when you're making your region for whether the region should snap to the grid or not. So here I have it turned off and my rectangle is kind of anything. But if I was making something like a trap or an encounter trigger and I want it to be more aligned to grid spaces, I can put that toggle on and then my rectangle will be snapped exactly to grid spaces. But now that I've got shapes here, we can add some behaviors. Now behaviors is what actually makes the region have power, have functionality. And when this feature was actually voted upon by our community, we kind of named it at that time event triggers. And what we've done is event triggers. It's just we focused on it a little bit more as regions and behaviors, and so the nomenclature that we've used for it has kind of evolved over time. But the behaviors is what ultimately gives a region its power. And so there are 7 behaviors that are supported out of the box in core, but it's very easy and straightforward for modules and systems to add their own custom behavior types. The behaviors that we support out of the box are adjusting the darkness level, executing a macro, executing a script, pausing the game, suppressing weather effects, teleporting a token, or toggling another behavior. So you can have like a remote control for one behavior that's controlled by another one. So let's start with pausing the game. It's a nice kind of simple example of how this works. Behaviors can be toggled on or off. So that's off, that's on. When the pause game behavior is on, let's see, we'll need a character here. Thank you, whoever imported that. Suppose our character then unlocks this door, opens the door to the dance hall, and then wanders in. Oh, did I fail to save it? What did I do? I don't know. Did not quite do what I expected. Let's see. Curious.
Yeah, it's not triggering for the GM, right? That was
it's not triggering for the GM. Yes. Thank you. I am a GM user. Okay, sigh of relief. Let me...
All GM users.
Why don't you're all other GM users. Why don't one of you go real quick and make a player user, or demote yourself to player or something, and then you can connect as a player so we can demo this. I was like, oh no, first thing, it's not. Yeah. Okay. Sigh of relief. We're a GM, so we don't we are exempt. We are immune from the pause game behavior. But I'll let one of you log off and convert yourself to a player so that you can demonstrate that. And while you do, maybe I'll show one of the other types of regions behaviors that we can do here.
I set something up in the second floor to demo the teleport.
Oh yeah?
Teleporter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll come to that in a moment. I think I'll highlight maybe something else real quick while you're making a player. So suppose I'm going to make a new region. I'll use the polygon tool this time. I want it to kind of conform to the shape of this room, so I'll just use the polygon tool to create this region here. Oops, let me do that one more time because I made it as a hole. I could have toggled it back to be not a hole as well. That would also have worked. What do we want to do in this region? Why don't we we can do like a execute script behavior. With an execute script behavior, you have the capability to do kind of anything that you want. JavaScript-wise, only game masters can use this, but when you're executing a script, you subscribe that script to certain events that happen, like a token enters the region, or a token starts its turn in the region, or the round ends and you're in the region. So depending on what the kind of scripted trigger condition is for the event, we'll just do token enters, which is a nice simple example. And I can write a little script here to demo what it does. So we'll get a reference to our token that entered a region, and then I'll try and do this properly first try without messing it up. We'll see if I succeed. I'm going to try increasing my token scale. Test of my capabilities. We'll see if I've been able to manage it correctly or not. All right, we exit the region, and then I'm going to go back in. Haha, I have enlarged myself because I've entered the region, and the script behavior that I just programmed to make the token appear bigger has fired as soon as I enter the region. And I could, of course, make a similar corresponding behavior to shrink me back to my normal size when I update the region, but I think maybe Eber is about ready to show the pause behavior. But yeah, so that's a very basic example of like, as soon as you enter this room, your token gets large, or you do honestly whatever you want to do with the very powerful Foundry VTT API. You can do it by making a custom script behavior and attaching it to a triggered event. So there's my demo there. I'm going to disable that so I don't keep making this token very large. But Eber, do you have a player user that we can use to demo the...
Yeah, I think I have control. Or did I log in with the wrong...
No, I think you logged back in as your GM.
No. Oh no.
It's okay.
The habit. Yeah.
What we should see once Eber logs in as a non-GM user, and let me make sure that that user has ownership over this token. There you go. You should have ownership over Krusk now, and you should be able to move into the ballroom here, and hopefully we'll see a demonstration of how the pause game behavior works.
Do I have vision? I don't see my token.
I believe so.
Ah, no. There we go.
Yep, there you go.
All right.
All right, here he goes. He's going to walk into the... Oh, there it happened. He walked into the pause region, and the game paused for Eber and everyone else. So, unsurprisingly, that's how the pause gain behavior works, but it intercepts your movement, and it forces the game to pause as soon as you enter the region of that behavior's effect. And it paused mid-movement, so it's very precise, and then it's kind of up to you whether you want to resolve that, like as the GM, you know, maybe it's up to the GM, like, well, I'm going to move you back a step, or I'm going to complete your move by putting you all the way in. It breaks mid-movement, so now that you're out again, you can try it again and pause. Oh, there, you ran into it again. So let's show another feature of this combat trigger. One thing you can do is you can configure it so that it only happens once. And if I move you back out and now you move in, it will probably happen again because it hasn't recorded yet that it already happened once. But now, having paused, suppose you were to do that again, now you're able to kind of wander through that trigger unimpeded. So if as a GM you want to like trigger a trap or something, but you don't want it to keep happening, you can use the once checkbox so that it only fires the first time. All right, let's show the teleportation, because that's a really fun type of event behavior. You said it was on the second floor of...
Yeah.
Which variant of the manor?
Ruined.
Ruined, second floor. All right, I see that we've got a teleportation pad over here. I wonder where this is going to take us. I'm excited to find out. So there's a teleporter here that if you know anything about the House Divided adventure, you understand that as you maybe discover this slightly later on, mild spoilers or major spoilers depending on where Eber's taking us with this, but that's okay. House Divided has been out. House Divided has been out for a long time, so I think we can be yeah.
And you should play it if you haven't.
Yeah, you should play it. You should definitely play it. If you are actively playing it, I don't know what Eber's done here, so you may want to avert your gaze just for a moment if you are actively playing this adventure. But if not, and are a player, not a GM, but if not, Eber, why don't you show us how the teleportation works?
Yeah. I need to log back in.
Or should I do
Yeah,
it?
just move it.
Okay.
Check the step.
So suppose we've activated this teleportation pad, and then I wander into it. Ah, I've teleported to somewhere else. Ah, on the same scene, in fact. Okay.
Oh no, the players did get the wiring wrong.
The players did?
Yeah, followed the recipe wrong.
Oh,
They
yes.
wired the teleportation.
They wired the teleporter wrong. But, well, at least now I have a convenient way to skip back and forth between this overhang on the library, or I can get back to the ruined master bedroom quite easily. What if we wanted to go to a different scene? Can we do that?
Yes, we can.
Take us somewhere fun.
All right.
I'll give you a moment to get that set up.
Yeah, you could show off our quick way to create regions from walls feature in the meantime.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll also show suppressing weather. So we already have a trick that we were using before scene regions existed to suppress weather in this map, but there's this like beautiful sort of fog effect outside. But suppose I wanted to not have that, and maybe I wanted this fountain or something to not have any of that weather effect. I can suppress the presence of weather effects in a particular region, and now there's no fog on top of this fountain. It just kind of goes around it and bypasses it. So that's another thing you can do. It's of course most handy for buildings like this where you want to keep the exterior weather outside of the building. Now we already had a trick that we were using in this adventure for that, and so we already had a solution to doing that. But if we didn't, we absolutely would have used scene regions as the way to do that. And so, would have the way that to do that would be basically that we need to turn the building into a region. Now, that actually seems like a lot of work. I don't really want to spend a lot of time doing that. If only there were a better way. Well, what you can do, a fun feature that we added near the end of the development cycle, is on the Shapes tab of your scene region. You can use this button here to create shapes from controlled walls. So what I can do there is I can select all of the walls of the building. Doesn't matter if it's the interior walls or just the exterior walls, although I want to not have a couple ones. I want not that one, and I want not these. So I'm just using shift click to like unselect a few that I don't want, but still way faster. And now that I've got the walls that I want selected, I can click this button again, and it just made a perfectly shaped polygonal region for the entire house. And I didn't have to trace it myself, just selected all the walls that I've already configured, click the button, and it's done a shrink wrap operation on all of those walls to easily create the region that I need. And I could then use that region to, add a behavior, say, to suppress the weather effect, so that there's no weather inside the manor. I could also use that region to do some very cool things like adjusting the darkness level. Now, we'll talk a little bit about darkness level later, but while we're here, I think it's a nice thing to show. We could use this to affect the darkness level in the scene within a particular area differently than the rest of the scene itself. So what I've just done here is I've made it like brighter inside the house than outside. So if we make the outside of the house, you know, darkness 1, it's now a bit brighter inside the house than outside the house. Or I could do the opposite, where I could make it outside the house darkness level 0, sort of like daytime, and I could say, well, it's always darker inside here because there's no access to sunlight, so we're going to darken the scene by a certain amount inside relative to outside, and now the interior of the house is darkened more than the rest of the scene. So you have control over the amount of darkness applied through your scene darkness level to have exception areas using scene regions, which is an incredibly powerful thing that you can do. I see a great question from Freeze about, like, can it do the inverse, create a hole from the walls? No, but you can switch that yourself very easily. So suppose I want this bedroom to be a hole in the scene region. I could open the region config, go to the shapes tab, go over here to make a shape from selected walls. I could select the walls I want to be a hole, could make a shape from it, and then I could turn that shape into a hole. So once I've made a shape from my selected walls, I can toggle whether that shape is a hole or not. So now I would have, like, the whole house except this one room is, it, you know, blocks weather and has this, like, darkness level adjustment. And now you see, like, it's brighter in this room than in this room, which is darker. Or, like, maybe I should have done it the other way around if I wanted to say that this one is actually the lighter one because the wall is smashed open, right? So, you know, I could do that by, I'll delete that shape I just made. We'll do it again. And instead, this time I'll select this group of walls over here. We'll make a shape from it, make it a hole. And there we go. Now we have this room where the wall has collapsed and it's exposed to the outside. It's brighter than the other rooms because it benefits from that global illumination while other areas of the map do not. Really, really powerful stuff that you can do with scene regions to kind of bring that extra level of polish and, you know, really like professional presentation and functionality to your environments and to your games. All right, Eber, you ready to take us somewhere cool?
I hope it works. It should.
I hope it works too. I'll wander in,
Yeah.
and we'll see where I'm gonna end up. Oh, loading screen. Loading screen. Oh my goodness. We've teleported to another dimension. This looks intense.
It's kind of
All right.
massive spoilers.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, little spoilers, but that's okay. We'll teleport. Oh, can I go back? I can't go back. There's no return. This was a point of no return, and I wasn't warned. I'm gonna go back. Back to safety. But I noticed that my token is no longer in this scene that I departed from, and that's because this, like, teleportation action actually, like, removes your token from the scene it was in and creates it in the destination scene. So there is no token left behind as a byproduct of that teleportation. This really is kind of just the tip of the iceberg in terms of, like, what scene regions can do. It's an incredibly powerful system that not only is the core support for what it can do powerful, but the framework that it provides for module developers is really potent. And I think that I'm very excited to see what custom regions get created. I'm very excited to see you know, premium content hopefully start to use this functionality. I'm gonna make a region for our little hag's cottage here. 3 circles should do it. A good chance to show how, like, we might want the interior of the cottage to be a little, like, darker than the rest of the scene. We might use a relative darkening of, like, 0.6 or so. and then the inside of the cottage is always a little bit darker, a little bit more gloomy than the outside of the scene. And that includes, as we adjust the darkness level of the scene, since it's a relative darkening, as the darkness level of the scene darkens, it always stays relatively a little bit darker inside the cottage, which is quite nice. Or not nice, depending on how you look at it. But we might want to make the exterior of our scene a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more orange, a little bit more magical. Of course, these are the kinds of changes that we may make eventually as part of the product itself, when we get around to doing like a feature update for House Divided or Demon Queen. More to come on that in our content stream next week, but yeah, you can also override the darkness level to sort of like always be a certain value, like always be maximum, always be 1, and then it's always maximally dark inside the cottage, unless there's lights, of course. All right. We could talk about scene regions for quite a while longer, but let me see if there's any like key questions that the community wants answered before we move on.
Just a thing to show with adjust darkness level area. We could adjust the elevation of the adjust darkness level region to just
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I did not set an elevation range. That's a great call out. For every region, you can set an elevation range for which it applies. There was a nice comment from chat about, oh, but it's making the roof dark. We've got this solved for you, because the roof is at a higher elevation. The roof is configured at elevation 20? What's the roof? Elevation 20, yes. The roof is at elevation 20. And so if we define this area of darkness as applying to 0 to 19, or 0 to 20, yeah, no, it includes 20. So 0 to 19, then the region would only be darkened underneath the roof, but not on top of the roof, which is really very, very nice and very powerful. All right, I think we'd better move on, because otherwise we could talk about regions for hours on end, I think. Let's move on a little bit, but I hope you all get the bug of excitement to really start playing with regions, and really that's what I encourage you to do, is just like get into Foundry, make some regions, play around with it, play around with how it works, what it does, let your imagination go nuts a little bit, and share back with us what you create. I want to see some crazy stuff. All right, next up, let's talk darkness sources, Ludovic. This is another one that's really exciting on the visual side of things. So darkness sources have existed in Foundry for a while, but never like this. What did we do with darkness sources in V12?
So there is a big difference between the old dark sources and the new. So now dark sources are blocking vision and light, as if they were walls. So we can make a demonstration, and yeah, so more than that,
just checking
darkness source, and we have
like, why is that not working? Oh, it's constrained by walls, because this
This
statue has a this statue has a very special reverse proximity wall on it. Let's make our darkness source unconstrained by walls. That would be good. It's like, what is going on here? Tricked myself. I walked right into it. All right, Ludovic, back to you.
And so now dark sources are placing walls on the maps, and if you, for example, you have a token with vision, yeah, so vision will be blocked by the dark sources, as if you placed a wall into this area. To make sure that players are identifying source, we have extended the radius of the darkness source so that players could see a faint visual effect near the edge.
Maybe we'll make it
So,
like a
yeah,
very
maybe we
green
should
darkness
choose
source.
another. Yeah,
It's green darkness. Go with it.
green
so-
darkness are cool.
So basically, there was kind of a meta information problem if we didn't do this, in that like you would, as the player, just see a barrier, but you would have no idea why you're seeing that barrier. So this at least reveals that visually that there is something there that is happening that's blocking your vision. And of course, if you want to make it even a little bit more interesting, Ludovic has gone above and beyond with some new special animation types for darkness. So ones that were previously maybe used sort of as light animations, but you might use them more as darkness animations. There's this black hole. There's magical gloom, which is a new one. This is a brand new one in V12. It's this beautiful sort of circling barrier of darkness around the edge. Roiling mass, where it's kind of more intense in the center and a little bit more of like a kind of tendrily towards the edge. And of course, all of these animations adapt with intensity and speed as well. So if we put it on magical gloom at like maybe high intensity and high speed for the purposes of demonstration, then what the player sees here is going to be very clearly kind of a sort of magical effect that provides, you know, some information about what's happening here. So you don't get to see the animation inside the area of darkness because you can't see that, and that's very important for like metagaming mechanical considerations, that you don't get to see the extent of which, like how large is the area of darkness. Your vision is curtailed at the nearest edge, and you cannot see further than that.
And so, yeah, darkness source are suppressing vision. So if you have a token with vision and you are going into a darkness source, you will become blind.
Mm-hmm. You get affected with the blindness status, which gives you can still see where your token is, but the rest of the map is sort of blocked from your perception until you move back out of the darkness source.
Yeah, and also you can place a light source to showcase the fact that darkness source are now suppressing
so two things about
light
this.
source into their area.
So a light source outside the darkness area, because the darkness now creates a impermeable boundary for light, the light source outside the darkness area continues to exist, but the light that it emits stops. So you can see here, like if we had this bright red or maybe bright blue light source here that normally would kind of go into this fountain area, the darkness now kills that light at the edge of where the two intersect. Now, if the light source, however, were inside the area of darkness, that darkness source will kill the light source entirely. So if the origin of the light is inside the darkness, the whole light gets suppressed. If the origin of the light source is outside the darkness, the light gets constrained by the boundary of the darkness. It's a vast improvement over the way that darkness lights worked previously.
And now that it is walls behind the scene, now I just want to have precision about that. Token won't be able to see behind the darkness source.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've already visited this area of the scene where this light is. If I kind of wander around, I'll use my GM powers to cheat and cut through the hedge here. If we wander around this hedge maze and go over to the other side, so now we're blocked by the darkness source again, but we can't see this light on the other side. That was another thing that used to be previously the case with darkness sources in foundries. You might not have illumination in the area where they were, but you could still sort of see through them. Now these darkness sources function as a much more effective barrier for perception. Yeah, really powerful stuff here. And I'll have to wander through the darkness to get to the other side here. Yeah, really powerful stuff that makes the use of light suppressing effects more immersive and potent in Foundry VTT. Attaching darkness sources to tokens is something that we had on our list, but it did not make the cut for the final V12. There was so many things that we would have loved to do, but this was one that didn't quite make it. I suspect that in the future, though, you will be able to attach darkness sources to a token, but it's not as straightforward, and so that's one that will have to come later.
You can still do it via the API.
I don't feel brave enough to test whether that works or not, but Ludovic claims it will work via the API.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Do
Awesome. Let's move on and touch on one more key topic, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll be back with more V12 topics after that. But let's touch on dice rolling a little bit before we take a break. So another thing that we really improved a lot in V12 was the dice engine. So Kim, why don't you talk us through what has changed there and what it means for Foundry?
Sure, yeah. It was a long time ago that one of the Pathfinder devs, you might know him.
Sorry, I'm going to force a reload for you all real quick because I'm going to turn the Pixels module on in case we want to demo anything with that.
Shark that walks like a man came to us and said, hey, you can use Peggy to pass your special dice DSL. It's a domain specific language. And it worked really well out of the gate, and took a little bit of time to test it out and play around with it, but I did some work on it in my Free Project Fridays to sort of prove the idea, and it was very promising. So in V12 we finally had the opportunity to make the jump, and so now we have a well-defined grammar for the dice language, whereas before it existed only, you could only sort of infer the grammar from reading the code. Now we have a sort of fully recursive grammar for the dice language, which means in practical terms that it's just a bit more robust. There were certain edge cases, some weirdness where the existing code wasn't quite able to handle things that should, or you might expect to work, and they just hit a brick wall and couldn't proceed. But now those are unblocked, and we did a pretty good job of maintaining the previous role API, so it works for the most part as it did before. It looks the same on the underlying role that you get, but behind the scenes we're using this Peggy grammar. It's kind of hard to really really all very technical and dev facing, so like
it does have some
users.
It does have some user facing consequences though.
Yeah, so when I said that we matched the previous API, I suppose we did make the jump to all of our, like, the role evaluation for non-deterministic terms are now fully asynchronous. That's no longer opt-out. But that was not necessarily related to Peggy. This was something that was in the pipeline for a long time, and we needed it to be able to support alternative methods of rolling dice. When you roll dice, it uses a pseudo-random number generator, which is very good and perfectly random.
Oh no. Oh no, what has happened? Have I lost Discord? Are we still live? Oh no. What's going on? Discord, come back. Discord. Oh no. I'm here, but I don't think anyone else is. What's happened? Discord is not happy. I'm not sure what to do. I'm gonna try leaving the call and joining it again.
I
wait,
can't remember the
wait,
exact
maybe we're
website,
back,
but there's a
maybe we're back.
website that uses like cosmic microwave background radiation to generate
Kim?
random number.
Kim, I'm going to
random
interrupt
numbers.
you for a second because
Okay.
we've just had a technical hiccup,
Oh,
which
no.
caused the stream to miss what you said for the last, I'd say 30 seconds.
That's not too bad.
We stumbled into a region behavior pause.
I don't know. We just came back.
We lost you at perfectly random.
We came back. Yeah, we lost you at perfectly random, and we came back just in time for background microwave radiation. Cosmic background microwave radiation. So we've gone quite on a journey during the time that we were gone.
All right. Well, yeah. The gist is you can slot in your own role resolvers now. We've finally removed support for synchronous evaluation of non-deterministic terms. So that enables module systems to place their own role resolvers into the role pipeline. And one example is Bluetooth dice. So that's a very obvious one. This is the example of an interactive one, which will prompt the user to fill in the values. The most basic one would be a manual entry.
Yeah, let me switch.
right?
Let me switch like the D20 to manual input, and if I then go over to chat and we'll say like roll 2d20 KH, then when I roll 2d20 KH, what pops up is a dialog window, application v2, where I can, as advertised, manually enter what I rolled. Now, of course, the success of such a thing would be predicated on a certain circle of trust at the table, and so it is kind of a social contract between the GM and players in terms of like what roll modes you want to support at your table. But if folks want to roll physical dice at their table and then say I got a 7 and I got a 13, the user can punch in what they rolled on their physical dice, hit submit, and then the rest of the roll pipeline would kind of go on as expected. And of course, on something that I just manually rolled in chat like that, there's really nothing else, but it works with sort of any sort of dice roll, like system governed skill checks and things too. So suppose I'm making like a perception check with advantage, I roll my physical dice and I got double ones, super unlucky. Then when I click to continue on, the results of my roll end up in Foundry with all of like the bonuses applied, and anything that you can do with that roll you can do as well. And one of the things that we were really able to improve upon relative to the prior module-based solution of unfulfilled roles, which was a good, effective kind of temporary solution, but this is a much more formal and much better long-term solution, is when you have re-rolls or explosions, those are also supported interactively as well. So suppose we have like, suppose I'm going to roll 66 and then I'm going to re-roll anything less than 3. Oh, I didn't configure D6s to be manual. So these are all rolling automatically, as you would see, as you would see. But let me go back to my dice configuration. I had D6 still set on digital roll, but I'll change D6 to manual input also. And then we'll try that again. And so now I can enter my results. So suppose I have all 6s except one where I had a 1. And then when I hit submit, then it's clear that I need to roll again. And I can either do that digitally or I can roll again manually. I got a 2. And so, yeah, I get those re-rolls automatically in there, which is very cool. And same with exploding results. So if I did like roll 6d6x greater than 4, I get to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I should have 2 explosions on 6d6 greater than 4. I click submit. I get 1 explosion. I get a 1. I get a second explosion, I get a 6. I get another explosion, I get another 6. I get another explosion, I get a 5. Now I get a 1.
Yeah. And you can just click the arrow if you want to fill it in and you've had enough. You just want the random number generator to take over.
Yes, you can fast forward by just kind of, if I do that same thing again, if I don't fill these in and I just click submit, then those get rolled automatically using the fallback digital rolling mechanism, and I can just skip these if I don't want to do it myself. So yeah, that's manual rolls, but there's also other backends that can be supported for how you roll dice as well. So you want to talk about some of those, Kim?
Yeah, so that's an example of an interactive one. There are non-interactive ones, of course. Like I said, there's a website that'll use cosmic microwave background radiation, so you could do a web request to that website to get your random numbers if you wanted. And then the more obvious one would be Bluetooth dice. So we have dev kits of Pixels dice. Although I think the real ones have shipped to at least some people. So if you're lucky enough to have Pixels dice, you can do this right now in V12.
Yeah, it should be very soon. So what I'm going to do here on my end is I'm going to pair. I'm going to try and pair. Although I think it might be fighting with my phone right now. Let's see.
Yeah.
I got one of them paired. Let's try and pair the other one. This is a one-time thing per session, so if you're using Pixels, it might take a second to get that to happen the way that you expect. But eventually, you just go through this workflow and you get your dice paired. It shows your battery, how much battery you have left, strength of your Bluetooth connection, and whatnot. And then I'm gonna give a refresh and see if they automatically repair, because I think it might be that I had the app on my phone also open too. But yeah, it's very cool that you can connect your Bluetooth dice in. I suppose by refreshing it means I have to do this one more time. Sorry, folks.
You
Should
might
be
not.
quick. Should be quick. I need to pair 3A. Come on, discover it, please. I got a demo to do. Oh, I just rolled it. That was a premature demo. Let's try one more time. Otherwise, I'll just go with the one that I've managed to pair, because the other one's being a little bit reluctant at the moment. There it is. Hello. It showed up. It showed up finally. Okay, yeah. So I got my 2 pixels. I'm rolling them. I'm shaking them. I'm shaking them. I'm shaking them. And then I roll them. And then there they are. And here come the 2 results that I rolled. I got a 15 and a 1, which is in fact the true and proper results of my rolling Pixels dice physically on my desk. And it works as well with my character sheet. So I can pop open the character sheet here. We're gonna make an attack roll with our longsword. Attack roll with advantage. So I pick up my d20s and roll them, and then those results fill in, and I got a 3 and a 17. So I get that hit of a 22, probably, depending on my target.
Yeah, if you target a creature, it will tell you.
That's true. Let's
3.0
unadvisedly try and target this house guard with an attack roll with disadvantage. See, I still hit. I had an extra accidental roll there because I jiggled it, but yeah. So for the GM, I get to see that this is of course in the 5e system as well. But yeah, another attack roll with advantage. Get those rolls in. Natural 20. Wonderful. So yeah, cool example of interfacing the rolling backend, the new dice model with the digital peripherals, and yeah, I'm gonna unpair them now so it stops trying to do that, but I'll just disconnect and disable that. there you go. So that was a cool little demo. And Kim can do that as well. I mean, if
Yep.
Kim were so inclined, I think.
Good. Set them up.
Yeah, so each of these like dice rolling backends configuration is per player, per client.
Yeah, it's
So-
per client. Someone asked, and I gave them the exact opposite answer. But yeah, it's not global. It's per client because each client can have different dice, right? Not everyone has the same dice.
Yeah, that's right. So while I, as the GM here or as a player here, might be using pixels for my d20s, someone else could be using Go Dice, another awesome partner that we have that works with us, and their Go Dice are supported in Foundry as well. Manual input, someone might be rolling physical dice and inputting manually, and then everyone else might just be using like the default digital rolls. So each client can be configured differently in terms of how they want to work there. All right, awesome.
Pairing some dice. I just did it.
Let's
There you
oh, there you go. Very nice, very nice. Let's go ahead and go to break, and then when we come back from break, we've got more V12 features to show. We've got several more big V12 features to show, in fact. So don't go anywhere. We're going to show off some more stuff. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to keep hanging out, keep celebrating the fact that V12 Stable's now out. But we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then when we come back from break, we also can do a couple of giveaways for anyone who's watching right now. So if you're with us, just be logged into Twitch and be here, and we'll roll on a roll table as soon as we get back from break, and we'll pull a couple of winners to get some free stuff as part of our celebration. Oh, nicely done, Kim. Hope you didn't waste that on something like trying to light a campfire or something.
Yeah. Trying to persuade the campfire to be set alight.
All right, folks, we will be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We're going on break. Don't disappear. We will be back with giveaway and more V12 features in just a moment. And we're back. Hello. Thank you for patiently sticking with us. Oh, I got to bring my Discord back. There we are. And we are all back now, not just me. Thank you for sticking with us while we took a quick break. We're going to continue on to show a bunch more V12 features, but first, why don't we give some stuff away? I created a rollable table during the break with all 304 of you who are logged in to Twitch, and we'll give a couple spins on this table and draw 3 or 4 winners depending on how expediently the process goes. And for each winner, we're going to give you a chance to choose between a copy of Foundry Virtual Tabletop, the software, the core software, if you want it for yourself or to give to a friend. You also can choose the House Divided adventure that we were just showing with some of those cool scene regions and beautiful maps and tokens. Or you can get a Pathfinder beginner box. I think that's another good choice that we can throw into the pot. So House Divided is an adventure for D&D 5th edition. Pathfinder beginner box is a good option if you're a Pathfinder fan, or if you want a copy of the core Foundry VTT software, that is also a choice available to you. So let's go ahead and give a couple of spins of the wheel, and let's
make sure your D304s are not set to manual.
Make sure my D304 is not set to manual, or is set to manual, and then I can choose
You can
my
rig it.
favorite. Yeah. All right, here we go. Drum roll, please. Our first winner is Mad Sumas. Mad Sumas. I feel like I recognize that name. Mad Sumas, you are a winner. Second winner,
Yes.
Pal and Stuff. Pal and Stuff, you are winner number 2 if you are here and present and accept your prize. And winner number 3, Regresses. something we've tried not to do with V12 and sometimes failed. Regresses, you are winner number 3. So for those of you who are here, what you'll need to do is confirm in chat that you are here. I see a comment from Pal and stuff, which is good. Looking for a comment from Mad Sumas or Regresses. And what you'll need to do is to let us know which prize you want, although you don't have to choose right away. What you will need to do is send me a DM via Twitch and let me know which of those 3 prizes that you would like. Madsuma says, pass. I already own them all. Well, that's incredible. I feel like I'd like to do something for you, though. Mad Sumas, do you own the Demon Queen Awakens? If so, I could give you that instead. That's another very fun adventure that we've made that I could drop on your plate. Oh, yep. All right. Well, You're hard to give prizes to, Madsumas. You're too devoted a fan. We really appreciate you.
That's really great.
You know what? Tell you what, Madsumas, why don't you DM me on Twitch with if you're comfortable sharing it, why don't you DM me on Twitch with your address and t-shirt size, and I'll send you a Foundry VTT t-shirt for being such an excellent fan. All right.
Regresses.
What's that, Ludovic?
Regresses.
Regresses.
We need.
Did we get anything from Regresses?
Yeah. No.
No, we didn't. Okay. Let's cross Regresses off the list. And Madsumas, I'm going to cross you off the list, but shoot me a DM. We'll see what we can do for you. We'll try and get a couple of other winners. Mr. Transcended and Jarvis Gang 1. Mr. Transcended and Jarvis Gang 1. Let me know if you are around. Yes, from Mr. Transcended. Congratulations. We have a Jarvis Gang 1 as well. Excellent. Okay. This has gone pretty well so far. Let's try one more. We're celebrating today. This is our anniversary celebration. Let's try and go for 4. We've got a Garinger. That's one of our module developers, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
Is that Kalego? No. Who is that?
No, they go by the same name.
Oh, it's the same. Okay. I was thinking, like, is that someone? I know it's someone from our dev community, but I couldn't remember if it was like someone's alternate Twitch name or. I'm
trying to remember if are they a system dev? I'm trying to think if they were.
It feels like a system dev. It's so hard to keep track of these days. It's like so many people making amazing stuff for Foundry. It's very, very humbling. All right, let's see if the Garinger's here.
They are. Yep.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Whee! Awesome. Well, all 4 of you can shoot me a DM, shoot me a message on Twitch. Let me know which of those 3 prizes you prefer: Foundry VTT license, House Divided, or beginner box for Pathfinder 2. And I'll get one of those. I'll get your prize over to you in the coming days. It might be delayed a day or 2. This week is pretty crazy, but I will get back to you at some point and get those prizes over your way. All right, awesome. Good success with the giveaways. In case I clear chat log between now and the end of the stream, can one of you grab the record of who these winners were, so that grab it for me, post a screenshot in Discord or something?
Just the ones on screen right now.
Yeah, just the ones on screen right now. Just these 4, just so I remember exactly who the winners were. All right, and then we can get into showing a few more of our remaining V12 major features. Now, there's a ton of stuff in V12 that we won't have time to get into today, but there are a few more things that I think would be really great to show. So let's go ahead and pop into a couple of those. I think we can start with audio improvements. I'll take the point on that and showcase a little bit of some stuff that you can do with audio that's really exciting in V12. So now the first thing I want to showcase is that audio playlists and environmental audio in the game world are all separated into multiple channels of effect now. So there's 3 channels up at the top. Now this is something that sort of already existed, but the names of the channels have changed and their definition is now a little bit more fully clarified, I think is safe to say. So we have a music channel, an environment channel, and an interface channel. So music, when you're creating audio playlists on the music tab, like this atmosphere playlist that I imported from Tabletop RPG Music, shout out to Ian. By default, things that you create on the playlist tab will go to the music channel, but you can actually, when you edit the playlist, you can customize, like, is this playlist actually, say, environment or interface? So you might, instead of amazing music from Ian, you might have amazing ambience from Michael Gelfi or Dark Raven or Tabletop Audio. And so, you know, you might have more things that are like environmental effects, and you can classify those as environment, and that can allow folks to sort of independently balance the soundscape of the environment versus the soundscape of the music. So for example, in if I think about like what's something like faint wind, maybe that's too faint. What would be a good something that's critters, wind. I'll just do regular wind. Suppose I have a track in my playlist that's an environment thing. I'll crank up the volume high on this and we'll say I'm going to classify wind as an environment sound. So now if I start playing wind and then I turn up my environment sound, what you should all be hearing on stream is you're hearing this wind effect that's specifically isolated to the environment layer of the audio composition. So now I've got my music from Tabletop RPG Music on the music slider. I can make that music louder, and I can make the wind softer. So now I've got more music and less environment, or I can have less music and more environment. And so I get more sort of rational, more intuitive configuration of those different audio channels. Now, interface is usually used for things like UI, UX sounds, so like the sound of dice rolling or the sound of you getting a private message, or, you know, anything else that's like an audio cue that's more about like user experience. But then the separation of music and environment is more about like the game experience that you're having. So that's something that's quite powerful in just and these sliders, these are user volume controls, of course, so that I and Eber and Kim and Ludovic can each balance those as we individually prefer when we're in our game session. If like Ludovic wants a little bit more music, but Kim wants to hear the environment a little bit more, you can have those individualized choices about what you're listening to. In terms of ambient sound, of course, as well, I just picked a sound almost at random from out of the beginner box. I picked The Malevolent Dead. I hope that, I don't know exactly what this is going to sound like. We'll see. But suppose I approach this this house. Let's see what The Malevolent Dead sounds like. Turn up its volume, hopefully not too loud. Doesn't seem to sound like much of anything. Maybe I didn't pick the best example.
Well, they're dead, so...
Let's try On Fire, maybe? Oh, there we go. That's loud. But loud is good. I'm trying to demo some audio. So we've got the sound of burning. We've got the sound of burning coming from inside this house as you approach. I'm gonna mute music for a moment. One of the very cool things in V12 that you have now access to is audio effect filters. So on the ambient audio configuration at the bottom, there's some special effect filters that you can apply to it. So suppose we wanted this On Fire to have a lot of like reverb because it's in a very echoey environment. Now maybe fire isn't the thing that would be reverbing very much, but just go with me on this. So we've got now like high reverb fire. Sounds very different. Sounds like there's this kind of like really high degree of echo inherent in the fire. Or I could change it to be instead just a high pass filter, so it's only the kind of the very like faint crackle. It starts to sound almost more like raindrops at that point when you're trimming only the high part of the audio waveform. Or low pass filter, it's going to be much more like kind of muffled bass like. Yeah, it's like a sort of a distant bass like drone, like you're hearing it sort of through a thick stone wall as we are here. Like it's burning inside the building, but I'm only hearing the low pass of it. Now, one thing that's exceptionally cool about this is that you get access to two filters. You get a bass effect and a muffled effect. Now, the definition of the muffled effect, a sound is treated as muffled if it's unconstrained by walls, but the listener of the sound is on the other side of a sound blocking wall as the sound source. So what would that mean? That would mean that right now this sound is treated as muffled because it's the source of the sound is inside the house and the token as the listener of the sound is outside the house. So this sound is currently in that muffled state. So what I could do is give this sound a muffled effect and say this sound will have that low pass filter when it is muffled, but not when it is in the bass effect. So if I configure it this way, then when you're outside the house, you hear that very kind of more bass-like muffled tone of the fire inside. But then what happens when I open the door? As soon as you open the door, the fire sound comes in full as the low pass filter is removed because the sound is no longer muffled. So here we go again, muffled and not muffled. A really amazing way to kind of have like a very immersive and dynamic audio experience that happens automatically based on your environment. Something that I'm super excited about that's really useful in all kinds of ways. Imagine like Otari Fishery is probably a good example of a sound that I'm imagining it's probably pretty lively in terms of like voices, or there's the sound of people or something. Let's see how that sounds. Yeah, so you hear like all these voices of like people talking at the Otari Fishery. What happens if we leave it on this muffled sound effect and then we go outside the building? You have all these sort of muffled voices coming from within that is not so like audible anymore. It's really, really cool that you're able to do this sort of stuff. The immediate sound change when you open the door, I don't know. I nerd out on it a little bit. I find it to be incredibly satisfying. So hopefully, folks, hopefully you all do as well. So yes, that's some of the very cool new stuff with audio. One other thing on the audio side is now players can be given ownership permission over playlists. So for example, if I wanted to configure ownership for the atmosphere music that's playing, I could give a player ownership or observer permission, which would allow them to could give them ownership permission that would allow the player to control the music. So if you want like the GM to let someone else in the game be the DJ for the session, you can give them control over their own playlist and can allow the player to control their own audio. Or if like one of your players is playing like a bard character or something and has all their like stingers or something that they want to play, you have to really trust that player a lot if you're going to give them that power. But yeah, you can let a player kind of play their own soundboard or something if you want, with this permission. So it's not on by default. By default, players do not have permission to control the audio, but you can now give players ownership over audio playlists the same way that you would other types of documents. So those are a couple of little exciting audio-related features. I think we can move on from there. And next up is to touch on the dynamic token ring. So Ludovic, why don't you tell us a little bit about what is the dynamic token ring? How did it come to be? What's its history? And what have we done in V12 with it?
Yep. So at the origin, dynamic token rings were developed for D&D 5e, so PBSO, and we moved this feature to core for V12. So basically, what you can do with token rings, if you have assets, tokens with no rings on them, you can activate the option ring enabled into the dynamic token ring appearance tab, and you can activate a ring just on the asset. And then you have multiple options linked to the ring. You can choose a ring color, a ring background color.
Yeah,
And
so for this character, Radoth here, maybe would be nice to do sort of a green background with maybe like an orange trim would look very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we've done here is we've kind of configured the composition of the token a little bit. The dynamic token ring has three parts, right? It's got the background, the ring, and the subject texture. Do you want to explain a little bit more about like the sort of composition or what each of those parts can do, Ludovic?
Yep. So we have the token texture, which is we can have a subject texture assigned for a token, and this texture will be composited with a ring and a background. So all three are composited into a single single mesh, and we can use some attributes to put colors on the ring or on the background, and we have also the possibility to add effects.
Yeah, so with effects, this is something that, for example, the D&D 5e system does automatically a little bit with, for example, effects like when damage is taken, there's like a nice sort of little like flash or healing. There's a sort of flash of the ring in terms of like indicating that damage occurred, and yeah, so that's one thing. I think there's also some animation for like target acquisition. Am I correct, or is that something that got
I think
removed at some point? I don't remember, to be honest.
Yeah, there is an animation for that. The black ring is just a bug to do with the fact that we still have V11 compatibility in this release.
Oh, you mean after the animation?
After the animation, yeah, it goes to black.
Yep.
I see someone asking me to raise my volume. Cuss, is this my speaking volume or the sound of others on the stream? Someone try targeting Radoth a little bit. Maybe I'll just move my mic a little bit closer. I don't know if that's better.
Radoth.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not seeing an animation, but this could be because of like compatibility with the
Could be
the 5e system. But we'll get some of those things tightened up because we added this token ring first in the 5e system. We've actually kind of had a weird transition, an unconventional transition period for this feature where it's actually coming out of a system and going into core, and of course, the D&D system has had a release today as well, which puts it into a state of joint V11, V12 compatibility, which was a great accomplishment for the team working on it, to be able to support both V11 and V12 simultaneously. But it did involve, supporting 2 major versions simultaneously does involve a fair bit extra work to try and negotiate some changes, especially one as significant as the token ring. So
a little bit of bugs around Token
Yeah,
Ring.
a little
Some
bit to
bugs
still
around
work out.
dice rolling
But-
as well, but pretty minor.
it's very fun also with the token ring. You can, if you have your own subject textures, you can use those, and that can work really great. But if you don't, you can make your own. So suppose you have a token like this one, top down from House Divided. If we turn on the token ring, it kind of does sort of put it on a base, which is pretty fun because it's a little bit like it's almost becomes sort of a little bit like a miniature at that point, I guess, in that it looks a little bit like a top-down mini, maybe, and that can be a style of using the software that people might enjoy potentially, and of course it then like works with like the damage flashes and stuff as well, which is nice. That's a cool little value add. And then also if you have like say like a portrait. Now this portrait probably is not so suitable, but I could make it the subject texture for the ring, and in theory, I wonder if it needs a refresh to have that apply. Let's try disabling the ring and then re-enabling it. No.
Yeah, that there is an issue with the
Did not like that. Did not like that.
the real token being drawn on top.
I see. Okay.
Again, it's like a V11.
Well, we'll sort that out. I'm sure. I'm not sure whether it's a V12 bug, in which case it'll be a V12 patch, or if it's a D&D bug, in which case it'll be a D&D patch. But we'll figure out the reason for that and get it sorted. But yes, fun feature to have, especially if you have portrait artwork as well, because being able to set up the portrait artwork to work with the token ring is very cool. Very cool indeed. Ludovic, anything else on this one that you want to highlight?
Yeah, for those who have already tested Token Ring for the during the testing phase, now we have adapted the Token Ring so that even if you are using a non-square texture, you will have a perfectly round Token Ring.
Yes, that was a good change for sure. Excuse me.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. What else is up next on our list? Grid improvements. Eber, I've stayed away from you for too long. It's time to showcase your amazing grid stuff.
Yeah, a lot of the good stuff is API changes, especially the hexagonal grid improved a lot. There were some maybe unconventional handling of the hexagonal grid, but now it is as you would expect, or maybe already expected it to work like that. But what users probably the first thing users would notice about the new grid is that if you drag a token or any other placeable, we now render the token in the snap position, so that you see where your token will end up if you release the mouse button. We think this should especially improve walling, right? If you
big fan
know
of
where
this feature.
the endpoints are going to end up, you're probably less likely going to make a mistake, and the walling workflow should be much smoother, less interruptions, less going back and correcting things.
Mm-hmm. And of course, holding shift bypasses snap. So if you're dragging your token with the shift key depressed, you have no snapping at all, and you can sort of pixel perfect position where you'll end up, but otherwise you will snap to grid.
Yeah, and well, for everyone using hexagonal grids, we support now different different shapes for larger hexagonal tokens.
I can show that. We'll switch to should we show maybe some of the grid appearance options while I'm here in the menu?
Yeah, that's probably yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if
new grid styles, line styles, solid, dotted, dashed.
controlling the thickness as well.
Yeah.
Just corner
Yep.
dots or diamond points, square points, dotted lines, dashed lines, solid lines, thick, not thick. Make them so large that they occupy the entire, occupy the entire scene. It's a look. I don't know. You might want it.
Yeah, and that's something modules
Perfect.
can
Nailed
also
it.
change, add their own styles. It's all shader based now. Yeah, much more powerful than before, and it solves some problems we had with before with thickness, larger thickness, and the intersection of grid lines, like the opacity was a bit wrong. So that's all solved now, and it's nice and clean. Yeah.
So we've got now on hex grid, suppose our token here enlarges to be a 2x2. We've got a really nice kind of hex-based, native hex-based shape for the token.
Yeah, and as you rotate, you'll notice that the token now rotates exactly around the center of the 3 grid spaces. Previously it would rotate in a different position. That's now fixed, so yeah, your tokens are now perfectly centered on the grid spaces they occupy. Yeah, and we have different options. Ellipse kind of arrangement of the hexes, and
so you can customize your hexagonal shape in terms of like if you're playing like something like a Lancer or something where like the footprint of like your vehicle, I don't know, does it, and it does support also like, it doesn't have to be square, like here's like a 4x2 token that correctly identifies what the hex grid footprint of it would be, and then you do have some customization for like which kind of orientation of hex you would want for the base, which is very cool, very, very powerful.
Yeah, I think especially
I keep leaning back
Lancer
in my
users
mic. I'm sorry.
will appreciate
I'm sorry,
it.
chat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I keep like leaning back in my chair to enjoy the satisfying grid features.
Yeah, what else? The API is much more powerful. We have new ways to measure paths on the grid, as well as supporting cost measurement. So that will make implementing like difficult terrain measurements and stuff much simpler.
Mm-hmm.
Because we also support all of the possible square diagonal rules.
Yeah, let me switch it back to a
that
square
out there.
grid, and we can show how powerful the new sort of diagonal rule customization is. So like how to handle diagonals in a square grid is always, I wouldn't say a point of contention, but it is a decision that groups playing online have to, make a more informed choice about. So there's a bunch of options now for how to handle square grid diagonals. There's support built in for equidistant measurement, which is of course that diagonals cost the same as sort of north, south, east, west movement. There's exact square root of 2. Now I'll have to reload in order to show these, because it changes a lot it has a big impact of changing these rules. So you do have to reload if you change them. But if I change it to say like a square root of 2 measurement, then you'll notice that my diagonal cost me 7 and a bit, 14 and a bit, 21 and a bit. I think probably since I have to reload each time, I should show the template measurement at the same time. So if I turn on another feature that's new in V12 is called grid-based template shapes, which is an alternative for measuring templates that conform to the diagonal movement rule defined by your grid measurement. So For example, if we make like a circle template with the exact diagonals, it is sort of relatively approximate of what you would expect a circle shape to be, but it is not a true circle. But the rules of like which grid space is highlighted here by the template conforms mechanically to like what would you be able to move to in that amount of distance if you were standing at the origin point. So if we make this, say, like a 30-foot radius circle, and we've defined what our diagonal distance rule is, then every grid space within the highlighted template is something that you can move to in 30 feet of movement or less based on your defined diagonal rule, which is something that's far too complex to be written in any rule book effectively. But it actually makes a lot of sense if you start thinking about like how the mechanics would actually be interpreted for a certain shape.
I recommend system designers to implement this kind of rule for VTTs. It's always a bit, most of these rules for template targeting are written for in-person on table play, I guess, and not really for a VTT. So it's always, a bit painful to recreate the rules exactly as written.
So here I've changed the measurement to sort of approximate 1.5. So what that means is that diagonal space costs 1.5 times non-diagonal, and we get a slightly different template shape for this circular template. We'd also get kind of a different template shape for things like cones as well. And then I think to really kind of emphasize some of the cool differences, we might also change it to say, I don't know, should we show like the alternating 1-to-1 rule? That's a very kind of commonly used rule in table-based play, alternating, 5 feet, 10 feet, 5 feet, for example, on a 5-foot square grid. And if we do that, then we get this very sort of peculiar shaped circular template where our circle now has the shape of what you would be able to reach in 30 feet of movement. Each square that's highlighted here is within your 30-foot movement capability, and each square just outside would be 35 feet. So you get a template shape that's very accurate to the amount of distance that you could travel, depending on how you've configured your rules. And of course, it does mean that Fire Cube happens. We can settle the Fire Cube debate once and for all, because for those of you who make the incorrect choice of setting your square grid diagonals to equidistant, if you make the objectively incorrect choice of doing that, then what will happen as a result is that your circular templates will of course be a square. But there you go. You can have your fire square if you're willing to stomach it.
I see a circle.
Yeah, it's round to me.
Yeah.
At least it's appears round to the token living in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the rules of physics in this universe, it is perfectly circle. It's perfectly circular.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry for putting you all through this. I will return us to a semblance of sanity now.
By putting us on a hex grid.
By putting us on a hex grid. Shots fired. No, we'll put it to exact square root 2 and see how that goes. Yeah, get the heresy off the screen. Purge it with fire. All right. What's next? Square, fire. All right. PCO framework. This is one that would be good to show using a map that has some like roof or something. Maybe can go to Dreaming Tree. Maybe. the PCO overhaul is something that's incredibly powerful and technologically a little bit complex. So I'm wondering, is there a good way to summarize for our audience, like, what do we mean by PCO and what are the types of things that we changed in V12 and why? Anyone feel up to taking a crack at that?
What is a PCO?
What is it is a primary canvas object, and so basically what we have done with V12 is to have primary canvas object act like pixie objects. So it is they are meant to be used into the primary canvas object. They are meant to be used as elements of the game. Maybe the background, the foreground, any tiles, trees, and things like that. Tokens, they are all PCO, and so they have some nice attributes. You can PCO are occludable. You can define some option, for example, for the treetop, to make it occludable.
Yeah, so we've got a big tree canopy here that we've already defined. It's a tile, it's at elevation 20. It has an occlusion mode that the whole thing fades, but there's other options. We set an occlusion alpha for like how much should it fade when you're underneath it. We have independent checkboxes for does it restrict light or does it restrict weather. So light restriction is happening. So there's all these little light sources here. These are like lanterns that are surrounding this tree trunk. There's all these little lanterns, but they're below the tree canopy. Now, if we configure the tree canopy so that it doesn't restrict light, we get the light of the lanterns kind of poking through and illuminating the top of the tree. It looks pretty, but maybe that's not what you want. You want to say this is like a very thick canopy. The light that's below is not visible on the top of the tree, so we can mark that this one restricts light, and so now those light sources are blocked by the tile that's above it. We also can have it restrict weather, so suppose we change the weather in this scene to like rainstorm. Is rainstorm new in V12? Or is rainstorm in V11?
V11.
Yeah.
I didn't remember when we did rainstorm. But now we've got this very heavy rainstorm weather effect going on in this scene. If I take the tile and I will then cause it to restrict weather, then now our tree canopy is blocking the rain underneath its boughs. And so you see that there's sort of part of this dragon that's getting wet and part of it that's not. And so each tile has this individual control for both light and weather in terms of like, is it restricting the effect of one or the other or neither or both? And so you get much more granular control. It's a replacement to the sort of is roof checkbox that used to exist. Now this is a bit more granular. There's more individual parameters that you can configure and control for how you want it to work. Now, of course, the occlusion mode as well. I'm going to maybe switch it back off the rainstorm since that could be a little bit distracting. But in terms of the occlusion mode, we have it set to fade so that when you're underneath it, it just fades out. But there's other occlusion modes as well. These aren't necessarily new, but the way that they're working in V12 has changed a bit as well. So to remind everyone, radial occlusion means you just get the little circle around your token, but nothing more. So you can see your token, but otherwise it still holds. And then you've got vision-based occlusion, which is that it will be concealed in the area that you're able to view. So as I explore the Fog of War, like here I see that, the tree canopy over on the side that I have previously visited, I'm seeing the canopy over there, but I'm not seeing it in areas where I have active vision. So there's different modes here that are very powerful in terms of like how does the overhead tile behave, and you can choose the one that's right for your particular use case. There's also a nice really nice new feature for GMs and for users as well, in that if you hover over an occludable object now, it fades away so that you can see what's underneath it. And that's what's happening here. Like, I don't have a token controlled. I, as the GM, am just mousing over the tree canopy, and as soon as I mouse over it, it fades away so that I can see what's underneath it, and I can interact with these tokens. I can do what I need to do. I can have this house guard, wander over and come down the stairs, and then I mouse out and it comes back in. So just by mousing over the overhead object, you can much more easily than before interact with the things that are, underneath that overhead occludable object, which is a really great added quality of life benefit. It works in other maps as well. Like, I was doing something with the cottage. If you remember earlier, we were like putting a darkness scene region on the cottage in the grounds over here. The roof of this cottage, all I have to do is just hover over it and it fades away so I can see inside. This used to be much harder for the GM to do because you'd have to have like a token in there that you control so that the roof would go away. It was much more painful to like actually see like what's actually under this roof, but now all you have to do is mouse over it. It's much better.
I will add for module developers and system developers that every asset on the primary canvas group are PCO, and so, for example, you could apply occludable capacities on a token, for example. It is possible. I imagine a case where you have a big dragon on your screen and you want it to be occludable. It is possible via the API.
Yeah. Another thing that we did related to like big tokens, Eber, you did some tremendous work on token stacking behavior and status effects. Should we maybe demo that? I feel like I've used this scene before to do this same demo. Probably should get more inventive with how I do the demo, but we'll do it since we're here. Run it back. But yeah, so we've got two characters here. We've got a hero and we've got a dragon. Maybe we can talk about sorting first.
Yeah, the same sort buttons from tiles and drawings are now on the token HUD as well, and allow you to change the sort order for tokens at the same elevation.
So suppose I haphazardly move over here and it looks as if I've just climbed on top of the dragon's wing, and I'd like to have a little bit more immersion here. Both of these tokens are at the same elevation. They're both currently at elevation 0, but I can pop my hero underneath the dragon's wing very easily. It doesn't change their elevation. It's just kind of controlling the sort order in a way that is synchronized for all clients. So everyone would be seeing this same change if I do it in this way.
There's also a key binding for this operation to push a token back or bring it to the front.
That's right. It's the square brackets, right? I think by default.
Yeah.
Square brackets. You can use left bracket down, right bracket up, but it's also rebindable in the key binding configuration. If you want to change that to something else, you would find it under core key bindings, and then scroll down to.
So if you don't have a
send
US
or backs, bring objects to front.
or UK layout, you probably might need to change the bindings.
Yeah, so if you want to be riding on top of the dragon or underneath the dragon, you have easy control over that in terms of vertical stacking of tokens. And then of course elevation breaks takes precedence in terms of tie breaking. So like, even if I were underneath the dragon at elevation 0, if I ascend to elevation 10, I am of course over the dragon, because elevation is more important than the sort order in terms of the order of sorting. But yes, that's right.
Yeah, and now we render the interface components like the health bar and status effects and nameplate such that it is rendered above, but it ends up appearing like it is rendered inside the primary canvas group. So now if you kill the dragon, and there's a big skull, the skull icon on top of the dragon, and you drag your token on top of it, the token will appear above the UI element, and previously, everything appeared dead within a square of a dead token. And now this problem is fixed, and you can finally climb on top of the corpses of your enemies without a problem.
Yes. So, and that works for just for I need to reassociate this actor with the Spriggan. I guess that's a little house divided bug that we can fix up, but I'm trying to remember whether the name of the actors. Yeah, Thorn and Thistle have their own individual names.
I mean, you're in trouble if you're entering combat on this map.
You are in trouble if you're entering combat on this map. That is true. But yeah, little icons or big icons, those either way they get underneath you. But unless you're over top of. Yeah, so they respect the visual ordering of tokens that have those statuses, which is really a non-trivial architectural achievement.
Yeah.
Seems like it should be simple, but for a lot of reasons it is not.
It's really not.
All right, let's see what's next. We talked about PCOs. We talked about token stacking. I think we may have reached the end of the list, but I know there's probably other V12 features that deserve commentary that I may be not thinking about. What else should we spotlight?
Always so hard to know because we've been living in V12 world.
I don't even remember what V11
no.
had.
No, I don't.
Token transitions.
Token transition. Yeah, good call. Good call. So suppose my heroic character here turns into a Spriggan. I get a very nice automatic crossfade animation where my hero has turned into... Need to get the original token so I can change back. So a very nice little crossfade that happens automatically when that token changes. But that crossfade is not the only option. Ludovic, do you want to do a couple on your end and sort of show us some more fun transitions that are available to users of our API to take advantage of? And of course, things that you can do in the API, these things that systems can do, things that modules can do, things that you can do in scene regions. So all of these like more exciting looking visual transitions are things that, because the API supports them, now they're supported in macros, they're supported in scene regions, they're supported for systems, they're supported for everything else. So Ludovic has done some really cool token transitions where when the token texture changes, you can do that texture change with a specific animated effect. And I think Ludovic, whenever you're ready, you can impress us with a few options, although it might take a second for you to get set up.
Yeah. So I'll create a macro. Okay, I need a source texture.
While you're doing that, I'm going to look over the highlights of the V12 notes and see if there's anything else that I've forgotten about. We didn't put token transition animations in our highlight notes. Maybe we can sneak it in as a late addition. That's definitely deserving of highlight level mention. Oh, informational drawings. That's another really good one that would be good to show while you're getting set up here, Ludovic. I'm gonna go back while you're getting set up. I'm not gonna pull everyone, but I'm gonna go back to the first floor of the ruined manor myself. This is a really good one to show. So we've got these like little red traps that we're calling out here as like highlights for the GM. And they're hidden, they're not visible to players, but they are kind of in the world, which means they're darkened perhaps by the darkness level. Like you'll see that as I increase the darkness level in this scene, that red highlight box that's a trap becomes like less and less visible. It's like harder to notice when it's very dark in the scene. Or suppose someone nearby casts a light spell, and because they're trying to flavor their light spell, they make it like a red light. Suddenly, like, it's very not obvious that that trap highlight is there. Ooh, I'm not alone in this room. Creepy. Anyways, we can take the drawing, and now it has the option. Each drawing has an option of 2 different roles. Drawings can be informational, or they can be objects in the world. Now, this drawing is currently configured as an object in the world because that's the only option you previously had in V11. But if I switch this drawing to be informational, then it is always rendered in a different layer of the canvas that's over top of things like special effects. So if we have this light source, or if it's very dark in the scene, the appearance of the drawing is not affected by the darkness level at this point, because it is rendered it's rendered outside of the environment container, which reflects things like that. Another consequence of this that's incredibly useful, say, to players, is that now if the drawing is visible to players, like say players are trying to like concoct a plan of saying like, okay, let's well, I think we should go through, I'm going to change the color of my drawing. Okay, so the player says, I'm going to draw a green arrow of what I think we should do. I think we should go through here, and then we should go through this door, and then we should turn left, and we should go all the way down. If you're a player in this game and you haven't explored that part of the map yet, your drawing previously in V11 would like be invisible to you as soon as it goes under the fog of war, because in V11 that drawing would be part of the world, and I can show you what that would look like because I'll change this one back to an object drawing. In V11 it would have looked like this, like, oh, okay, wait, so what's the plan again? Like, we're gonna go to the door and then what? Because it's underneath the fog of war, because an object drawing in V12 is intended to depict something tangible, something real inside the environment you're exploring, while an informational drawing is used to convey information between players. And so an informational drawing is not restricted by fog of war in this way. You can concoct your genius maneuver plan with your companions that will never go the way you think it will, but it sounds great up until the first round of combat. And yeah, it's a better way to exchange information. And so when you're using the drawing tools, there is a toggle. There's a little toggle button right here for like, are you creating an information drawing like this, or are you creating a object drawing like this? You can toggle it back and forth. And then for any existing drawing, when you open the configuration of that drawing, you can switch it later if you did it the wrong way and need to change it. So yeah, that separation of multiple drawing types now is just really, really much more powerful. And like, as we go back through, for example, House Divided and other content, and we have places where like we've used drawings as a way to communicate information to the game master, you know, we will almost certainly convert those drawings, and in fact I think in some cases we may already have done, we'll absolutely go and convert those drawings to be, you know, information based. And of course that doesn't mean they're visible to players. Whether they're visible to players or not is controlled by whether or not they're hidden. All right, Ludovic, did I buy you enough time with that to show us some token transitions?
Yes, definitely. So, just checking a lot thing, and I'm ready. Okay, so let's initiate a transition.
Whoa.
Oh.
Baylor in disguise.
Yeah. So we have multiple transition. This is something you could achieve with API for the moment. So here, for example, I have used a weave. Now I will use a morph, which is quite different.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll try the whole transition.
Yeah, so the token is changing texture, changing size, all at the same time as part of the same animation with like an animated crossfade style between the two textures that you're using. So for things like a polymorph or a shapeshift, or like cases where like the appearance of the token changes, you can now make that appearance of the token change animated over a certain duration. You can configure the duration of it as well. Like you can make it a really slow change. Ludovic, show like a 20-second long change or something. Make it like a really slow one.
Yeah, so we choose white noise.
When
Okay.
combined with scene regions, you can have teleport animation.
Oh.
Yeah, you could have like a teleport end change, or you could do some pretty cool things.
Yeah, so let me just white noise, and for a long time.
Maybe 10 seconds. I
Okay.
don't know. Whatever.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
too long, but just to show that the duration of the animation can also be configured as you're doing this.
Sorry, I have just a small technical problem, but it is solved. Here we go.
Yeah, so now we get the very slow enlarging and kind of the ripple cross dissolve for the very dramatic reveal as the true form of the devil is becomes clear. Yeah, the old black and white monitor signal lost.
Yeah. This is
That's
maybe
so funny.
more a sci-fi effect.
Yeah. That's really funny. I like that one. Yeah, really, really cool stuff. And it's a good example of, if I take your macro, if you don't mind, can I grab one of these or actually, which one are you using? Are you using transition 2 or transition 1? Or either one, I guess. I'm just going to clone one. I'm going to duplicate it. We'll say like
Yeah.
Andrew transition. And one thing that I can show that's fun with this is like if we use, of course you can combine macros with scene regions. So if I'm gonna over here just like put example scene region, and I'm gonna give this scene region an execute macro behavior, and then I'll go grab my macro here and add it to the behavior. Now I'm gonna have to update the macro a little bit because I need to target the event data token to make sure that I actually affect the correct thing. But now, like, I've configured a script macro, and if I did that properly, let's test and see if I did. As my token wanders over into this region, nope, I haven't done it properly. What have I done wrong?
Maybe this is the same texture. You have just changed the size.
Texture transition type. I think I have... White noise was not the correct name of a texture transition type, perhaps? Water drop? I'll try water drop.
Yeah.
It's like camel case water drop?
Yeah.
Alright, let's try again. Nope, that didn't work either. What have I done?
Oh yeah, white noise.
Invalid texture transition type. It's not liking it.
Yeah. Okay, I have updated the macro.
updated the Andrew transition macro?
The first transition macro. You can copy it.
No. Well, I have to use the Andrew transition one because we've got to target the event data token for the transition.
So where is the
scene
event
region.
transition? Okay, I have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot the trigger. Someone has saved me. I forgot the trigger. Why does it not work?
Yeah.
I didn't subscribe to any events. Thank you, Trooper Max. You win the day. You've saved me from my eternal embarrassment. Yes, learning moment for everybody here. Macro execution only happens when you attach it to an event, and I did not attach it to any event, so it wasn't actually happening. So let's attach it to the token enters event. And now, hopefully, we'll get the result I'm looking for. Oh, and I paused it in my thing. There we go. Let's try one more time. I'll do it more seamlessly this time. We'll send us back to Krusk, and then we'll try walking into the region again. Aha! I walk into the region and I become a demon. So yes,
this is the cursed region.
yeah, cursed region. Okay. Anyways, yes, there you go. Quick sort of hacked together example of a poorly conceived way to link token transition animation to scene region behaviors, but a good example of the kind of random wacky stuff that you can do with this combination of functionality. All right. What else? Or are we done? Have we reached the end? I mean, there's so many like little features in V12, so many, but I'm not sure. Is there anything else that we specifically want to highlight? I don't know. I'm not sure. Some stuff with macros. Since I was just using macros for things. Little thing with macros. Now, if you have multiple macros on your bar, say you want to like rearrange them, it used to be that if I like dropped 7 onto 5, it would replace 5. Now they swap positions. So like if you're wanting to like rearrange your bar, you can like swap the position of macros instead of like eliminating one of them. You can still get rid of a macro by just dropping it nowhere, so it's still easy to get rid of one if you want, but it's much nicer that they swap now instead of replacing. Another thing about macros is when you're... I do this all the time, I don't know about y'all, but I'll like click the macro bar and be like, I didn't want to make a macro. I didn't mean to do that. And so, but then I have a macro because I click the bar, and it used to be that just clicking the bar would like automatically create the macro and then you would configure it. Now the macro that gets created when you click the bar is like temporary, so like this macro doesn't actually exist yet until I say like Andrew's intended macro /chat see hello. Yeah, so now that I've saved it, now the macro actually exists, but you know, it did not actually exist until I clicked save. So yeah, no more polluting your macro directory with like accidentally created macro clicks. That's nice.
The swapping, you can swap swap positions.
Yeah, I said that. I said the swap,
Yeah.
the position swap. That's another one. Just little macro things. Anyone else? Any takers? Anything else that we wanna highlight? Combat encounters that we made some improvements to combat encounters spanning multiple scenes. So like, if you add or remove a combatant that like turns your single scene combat into a multi-scene combat that like upgrades more gracefully, that's nice.
Yes, very nice change.
Drawing tools, we have no role.
Drawing tools.
Yeah, we have no the role. We can choose if it's informative.
Yeah. No,
or
we showed the information,
Yeah.
the information drawings. Yeah, we covered that one.
Okay.
We have now control over the range of light perception. Previously, it was
Oh, yeah,
always
that's right.
infinity. Now we have, like, there was basic sight. That was basically the combination of dark vision and infinite light perception.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have separate those. It's
Yeah, so
you
now there's a
have individual
meaningful
control.
difference between vision range 0 and vision range infinite. There's also a meaningful difference in when you configure your detection modes between light perception 0 and light perception infinite, or something partially in between, where like I can see light but only up to 20 feet, and I can't see light beyond that. So there's all kinds of like clever or creative things that you can do with by carefully configuring what you want your detection modes to be for the token. Yeah, that's a good call out. Another nice little one. Oh, I just lost it. I had it in my train of thought. Oh yes, there is a new door sound. Just a little thing, but we've got these door sounds. We now have 2 new door sounds for magical door and magical wall. I'll just play them for you. Yeah, so just some sort of magic doors. Little new options in the door sound control palette.
We got the embed enrichers.
The embed enrichers, yes. That is a great thing to show. Really love that. Let's create a journal entry.
Yep, you could embed a roll table or something. That's probably a good demo.
Yeah, indeed. Here is some journal text. Now, suppose I want to embed a roll table. Remind me of the arcane invocation that is required.
The easiest is probably just drag and drop the roll table in and then change the
Instead
@UUID
of
to
UUID, I'm going to
embed.
change it to embed.
Yeah.
And then
Probably the
here
easiest at the
is
moment.
some more text afterwards. What has this allowed us to do? This has allowed us to embed the contents of the roll table directly into the journal page without reproducing it, without needing to format it as a table. So if you're designing like adventure content, or you're writing your own adventure notes and you want to use randomization of like, I want these random monsters, I can embed that straight in. I also can take a second page, like the getting started information of how to play House Divided, and I can embed that page in another page.
That's right.
And so I can like bring in the information from somewhere else and use it to augment some part of my journal. So this embed is super powerful in that it allows you to kind of write your content in one place, but then use it in multiple places wherever you happen to need it.
That's right. Yeah. And every document and like a module or system provided subtypes can define their own ways that
Their
they
own
get
custom
embedded.
embedding. Yeah, super
Yeah,
powerful.
so you could like embed an NPC in a journal page and it'll give you like an NPC bio or something.
That would be so
Do something
nice.
like
Yeah, that'll be so
Yeah.
nice once I don't think those exist yet
No,
for
they don't.
like D&D 5e actors, but I can absolutely see how like an actor embed would have its own special display presentation, and that's going to be so beautiful once that exists.
Be really nice. That'd be really good for House Divide because we have those bio
It'd be
pages.
so good for any sort of adventure content, really. Like just it's good. So nice, and like for cases where you really want more than just a link to the actor, you really want to kind of present who they are. That would be so powerful.
Trying to look if there's anything else. We got compendium UUID redirects. It's a very technical one, but quite useful.
Yeah,
System
yeah,
devs.
pretty technical for our devs, but very powerful and useful. A good way to help ease the process of data migrations in some cases. All right.
Yeah. There was active effects as well. The data model integration, another
Yes,
technical
active
one.
effects. It's a bit technical, but this allows us, when you're applying an active effect to an actor, the way that that active effect applies is now intelligent and is aware of the data type of the field that it's modifying. So if we have an active effect that increases our strength on the character sheet, it knows that the strength value is a number field, and so it knows if I'm saying my active effect is +2, it knows how that +2 should apply to strength because it knows that strength is a number. And that's something that previously we had to just guess. We had to try and infer how we wanted the active effect to combine with the field, but because we didn't have that kind of stronger typing awareness.
That's right. Yeah, and sometimes you would get it wrong, and sometimes you had to do strange workarounds to get it to work because they were like all strings at the end of the day, and they relied on weird JavaScript concatenation behavior. So
yeah,
it's much nicer now.
Much nicer. All right. Well, I think we've kind of not exhausted the full extent of what V12 contains, because that is truly, like, there's a horde of small things that we could mention, but I think we've covered enough for today. So I think we should wrap up by just taking a couple of questions from chat. If anyone has something that they'd really love to know more about, go ahead and toss those questions our way. If you want to preface them with like an all caps question, this can make it easier for us to pick them out, and we can just take a couple for 15 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap up the stream. As a reminder that we'll have sort of ask us anything style Q&A going on next week on Reddit and on Discord as well. Question from Mute Foxy: does the new diagonal measurement feature take into account vertical diagonals between two characters when one might be flying? Eber?
No.
No, not yet. Does not include vertical measurement. There is no way to sort of measure vertically at the moment, but we will at some point implement a long heralded feature in Foundry called scene levels, and I'm not going to promise exactly what that will contain, and it's not going to be in V13. Spoiler alert, we're not going to do that in V13, but when we do it, it will pretty much oblige us to think a little bit more about how we want to represent that kind of verticality. Question from Kasamitre. Do you have a button that allows you to roll directly from the embedded table? We've discussed this, but I'm not sure it made it yet. I don't know, Kim, is there a way to roll on the embedded table? I don't think so.
The enriched one?
Yeah, I don't think it has interactivity of that sort yet.
No, it's a good idea though.
I'm sure that's something that will get added, but not yet. It is referential only at the moment.
Yeah, that the embed enricher can take sort of arbitrary options. You can put key value pairs and stuff in there, and those get passed to the to embed call. So you
could have some way to customize it. Yeah, that's really powerful. Sageface asks, do vision modes interact with the new darkness sources at all? This is something we have some plans for, but they're only partially executed plans at the moment. Eber or Ludovic, do you want to speak towards what we have and then what we may be doing in the future?
Yeah, so there's, I assume the question is about Devil's Sight, or whatever the system would call it, magical dark vision that ignores magical darkness. So we don't have this kind of vision mode in core, but it is possible for systems or modules to implement this kind of behavior. But yeah, certainly we'll have options for it in the future, but not in V12.
Yeah, we might add it to the system, I guess. I know you have PRs open.
Yeah, it could be either a system feature or a core feature. kind of there's a fuzzy line between like where does this feature end up popping up when it exists.
Yeah.
Mr. Potato Zed asks, love what you've done to improve the experience of teleporting tokens between scenes. How challenging would it be in the future to allow targeting tokens on other scenes? If you could target tokens on other scenes through the tracker, it would be a big help for cross-scene combat. It's an interesting question. I was thinking to myself as I was reading this aloud, like, what would the UX of that be? But I think you've kind of suggested what that might be by saying, like, maybe there's a mechanism in the combat tracker to kind of do that sort of cross-scene target. And I do acknowledge that that would have some nice effects in terms of, as we have more automation in various systems around, like, using your target to inform the display of the presentation of information. So we showed earlier, like, what it looks like to, you know, make an attack roll against, you know, one of these gladiators or something, where you know, whether you are able to hit with your weapon, you know, attack roll, for the GM at least, like, that information is then contextual to the target that you have. That sort of thing. Like, if you were in a cross-scene combat, I could see that, you know, there could be a good opportunity to you know, use the combat tracker to make those sorts of targeting things. This is, of course, a little speculative. That isn't a feature that exists, but I think what you're highlighting, I guess your specific question was how challenging would it be? It probably sounds like a feature that would keep one of our devs occupied for like 2 days or so, maybe, which doesn't seem like a lot, but 2 or 3 days. That's pretty expensive, I guess, all things considered, but it's not unattainably expensive to allocate a couple days of dev effort towards, and I think it's a nice idea. So maybe either you or we or someone on the team or someone helpful who's watching the stream could help us get that suggestion tracked, and who knows, maybe in the future. DDD Sasul asks, for the new scene ambient hue, is there a way to not affect tokens? Not currently. Currently, that scene ambience affects everything in the scene, tiles, tokens, everything. Question, were the token transitions documented somewhere? There is some documentation in the GitHub issue where they've been added, but I do think, like, we need to think about maybe what a more sustainable long-term place for their documentation would be. Ludovic, I think that's a good little follow-up to think about. Somewhere in our API docs, we should certainly have these documented with some, like, example usages. Honey Badger asks, may have missed this talk on this subject, but are there any additions in V12 regarding the general concept of height, Z up axis? There are some improvements. We showcased a few of these with regards to tiles and tokens. Generally, the PCO refactor that we did in V12 gives us a lot of power with regards to the concept of elevation. Scene regions also are elevation enabled. That's something else we showed earlier. So tokens, tiles, there's a lot more support for elevation, but there's not universal support for elevation yet. Light sources as well, of course, have a meaningful elevation where, of course, like a potent green light source that is underneath the tree at elevation 0, but above the tree at elevation 25. So there are a lot of things that continue to improve and refine functionality in terms of the elevation axis, but not so much in terms of like movement or measurement, or like wall restrictions don't apply in that axis yet. Those are things that would come later when we finally get around to doing scene levels, whenever that may be. Magus Finder, anyone know if there's going to be a Crucible announcement? If there is a Crucible announcement, and I'm not saying there will be, but if there is one, it will be next Monday as part of our content showcase stream. That's when we're going to focus on all things related to content. So definitely be sure to join for that stream. That's going to be an especially interesting and fun one where we're going to talk about a lot of projects that are underway. Some you know about, some you don't. And so that would be the time to keep an eye out for that. Bryn asks, will we ever see the beautiful animations that light sources have without a light source attached? This is something we desperately want to do. We talk about it a lot, and we have not yet really finally done it, but we're a lot closer now than we were. And I think the reason we're a lot closer is one of the key challenges with like an animation is what geometry do we use to display it? Like, where does the animation display? And one of the things that the light source gets us is the light source is a way for us to compute that geometry of like, where is the light? But if we want to do effects without light sources, we need to have some other way to say like, where is the effect? Well, now with scene regions, we have a way to say, where is the effect? So, that's something that we might be able to use potentially as a direction forward for saying like, I have a scene region area where I want to have, a special fog effect or a circle or something. We're not there yet, but this is something that within the team, we talk about it a lot. Ludovic, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think that scene regions are the perfect tool for that. And yeah, we want to bring this functionality.
All right, let's see. Question from Sinister Death 30: can regions do rough terrain affect different movement speeds? That's another one that's kind of upcoming, but not